Here in Arceto, New York, I want to bring in our trial attorney, Misty Marris, to talk a little bit more, well, about this certainly, but also about the Trump trial that's been developing downtown. I said that's the way we're looking at it, Misty. It's uptown and downtown here in New York is where the focus is so far this afternoon. These two jurors, as Dre said, we thought we were making progress, moving ahead of schedule. But look at this. We have 7 people on the jury, and now we have 5. We can put up the screen of the 5 that remain. What do you make of what happened today?
Well, this just goes to show how difficult it is to seat a jury in a case like this. And jury selection was moving along, and we spoke about it. It's because the judge is actually allowing large swaths of jurors to just raise bias. They say, I'm biased, I can't serve, and he dismisses them. And then the screening begins of the next. So that's eliminating a lot of people that would normally have one-on-one meetings with the judge to explain their bias. But this just goes to show there's more than the eye can see about these jurors. So I think the oncology nurse is the most interesting because she went home and sort of slept on it.
So bring up my telestrator for a moment, guys, and we'll show this. So this is the first dismissed juror. There were 2. This is juror number 2, right? So this is, I guess, part of the issue is right in here. You're talking about her profession being oncology nurse. There's tons of nurses all over this city and others, but maybe some media outlets were a little too specific in how they were reporting on her. I don't know, but you know, for whatever reason, she says, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. There's too much of my info out here.
Right, and the judge changed the rules at this point and said the media had to more narrowly tailor the information that was going to be put out there because jurors are able to be identified. And that's the issue. The judge does not want jurors feeling intimidated or nervous about being able to serve on the jury. So she went home, she slept on it, she said she felt like she couldn't be unbiased in this case, but also that she was nervous about her about being identified as a juror.
Now, the other one is juror number 4. We have that on the telestrator as well. That's not the issue. You'll see occupation as an IT consultant, is a male from the Lower East Side, originally from Puerto Rico, and you see where he gets his news from or where he says he gets his news from. But the reason that they're crossing out this juror seemed to be in his background, right? There's something that was, you got to be up front when they're asking you questions.
Correct. He was not honest in his questionnaire. That looks like the issue, although he did have a one-on-one meeting with the judge, which was not publicized. Reporters couldn't hear because it contained sensitive information, allegedly, from what we hear in the reports, relating to a prior arrest or allegation of criminal conduct that the DAs actually had found after he was seated and then confronted with. But Connell, it looks like it was something different than his juror questionnaire had said about that issue.
A couple of other things, 2 other things. Do lawyers make good jurors? I know you're biased, you're a lawyer, but there's 2 lawyers that have been picked out of the 5, right?
I've actually always wanted to be on a jury, but every single time I've been dismissed.
They usually get rid of you, right?
Yes, because lawyers tend to know too much and bring that into the jury room. And in that sense, a lot of times the other jurors will look at attorneys and think that they have some sort of special knowledge and they will become the leaders, and that can be a problem. But in this case, it might help to have a couple lawyers on the jury. And I say that because these are really, really technical issues relating to business documents, falsifying business records, and in furtherance of an underlying crime, an underlying felony. So it's a little technical. So a lawyer might not be a bad seat on the jury.
That brings me to my last point in all of this. We're getting so wrapped up because it's fascinating in many ways on jury selection. And it's also really important, especially in a case like this, that we haven't talked as much about the merits of the case. Let me go to the New York Times headline on this. Is Trump's trial, reads the headline, really about hush money? And the argument in that story, Alvin Bragg, the DA, is quoted as saying that it's about something much bigger than that. You see at the bottom of the screen saying that the payment made by Stormy Daniels in question here was part of an effort to hide info from voters ahead of the election. The quote from Bragg, it's an election interference case. So that's what makes it a felony, right? I'm struck by the fact that Trump always calls it an election interference case for other reasons. He's, trying to pin the whole thing on Biden. No evidence of that, but that's what he says. But Bragg says election interference, not hush money.
Right, and we all call it the hush money case. It's a nice vernacular to use in the media. Everybody knows what case you're talking about. But in reality, those payments made to Stormy Daniels, a catch and kill type payment, those are not illegal. There has to be a reason why it would fall under this category of a felony in furtherance of a crime. And that's because the district attorney is going to try and prove that Trump actually falsified these entries in his business records, which were payments, in order to squash all of this before the election. So it was in furtherance of getting elected, as opposed to just paying off somebody who says that he had that she had an affair with him.
Misty, as always, thank you. More from you coming up. Misty Marris is with us today at 10 past the hour. We're watching Uptown, Downtown, whether it's Columbia or the Trump trial. We'll have more on all of it coming up here.